Some say that there are untold truths and mysteries surrounding the ancient Sumerian civilization, and if what they say is true, our history could be completely rewritten as we know it. There also appears to be a growing interest pertaining to the ancient Sumerian culture. So who are the Sumerians? Well, not only are they the oldest recorded civilization in history, dating back to about 4000 BC in Mesopotamia, which is now modern-day Iraq, but they invented a vast array of things, seemingly out of nowhere, many in which we still use till this day. This was unprecedented for their time. Just to give you an idea, they invented the plow, the wheel, the first writing system known as cuneiform, irrigation systems, the time-based system that's on the clock, the first numerical system known as hexadecimal, and even the calendar based on 12 lunar cycles. And the list just goes on, folks. It seems that the Sumerians may have been ahead of their time. I mean, given the fact that they were able to create such an advanced civilization with all these inventions, whereas most of the contemporary people at the time were just scraping by and trying to survive. But it wasn't just their inventions that made them stand out. It was what they knew. Knowledge that was far ahead of their time. If you look at this tablet, you may notice what appears to be a solar system at the top. And according to a man named Zachariah Sitchins, which I'll talk about in a bit, that's exactly what this is. A depiction of our solar system with about 12 celestial bodies. 9 being the basic planets we all know, and yes, including Pluto. 10th being our moon, 11th being Nibiru, and the 12th being Tiamat, which is now the asteroid belt due to a possible collision with Nibiru. This, however, according to critics, does not appear to be true, and seems to be a stretch. The Sumerians kept a record of what each of their symbols meant. The symbol in the middle, which Sitchin believes to be the sun, is what the Sumerians used to symbolize a planet or a separate star. The sun was ascribed to a symbol that looks like this, with the waves emanating from it. Due to this, critics disregarded this claim. This, however, begs the question, so what is this a depiction of? The critics are uncertain, but they believe it could be a depiction of a star or a planet. And if true, and if there are 12 or more smaller figures surrounding it, one possibility is that it could be Saturn passing through a star cluster known as the Pleiades. Saturn may also appear to be a star from a certain distance, but what's really on the cylinder seal is uncertain, especially since the middle symbol that appears to be the sun at first glance isn't found anywhere else. The next cylinder seal seems to be a complete mystery as well. As you can see, there are celestial symbols in the center, with a line that looks like a straw coming out of the structure. Scholars may simply say that it's a depiction of the Sumerians drinking beer, but then what are those figures? It looks like Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, with a line in between Jupiter and Mars, in the very same location that our asteroid belt would be in. And if it is in fact our asteroid belt, then how could they possibly know about it? And how could they know about the ring around Saturn if we only discovered that after the invention of telescopes? The Sumerians recorded a great deal of their history in pedantic detail on their tablets. However, despite all their achievements and knowledge, the mainstream dismisses their records as mere myths and legends. You know, in the film The Lord of the Rings, there's a saying, and some things that should not have been forgotten were lost. History became legend, and legend became myth. Now, I know The Lord of the Rings is just a film. This doesn't mean that we should blindly follow recorded history. The people who wrote on the tablets were simply scribes that were ordered by their rulers. But to dive deeper into this, let's examine the source. In 1849, Sir Austen Henry Layard, a British archaeologist and global explorer, discovered 14 ancient Sumerian clay tablets that are now known today as the oldest writings ever to be found, dating back to the 24th century BC. This event led to the discovery of around 500,000 more in the years to follow, and more still being found. Within these tablets are stories that appear to have a resemblance to biblical stories of creation, deities, and even the Great Flood. In fact, several other ancient civilizations recorded that a great flood occurred around 12,000 years ago, but it was disregarded as a myth. And yet, there is mounting evidence suggesting that there likely was a worldwide flood that occurred around 12,000 years ago, wiping out a huge portion of life on the planet. possibly causing a global reset. In 1976, Zecharia Sitchin published a book called The 12th Planet, describing what he translated from the Sumerian tablets. According to him, the tablets state that the Sumerians claimed to have obtained their knowledge of past events and everything they knew to the Anunnaki, which translates to those who from heaven to earth came. In other words, aliens. The Anunnaki are said to be from the planet called Nibiru, which is beyond Pluto and cycles our solar system about every 3,600 years. 1,000 years ago, a crisis occurred on the planet, leaving the planet devastated with a destroyed atmosphere. The Anunnaki needed to repair their atmosphere, so they came to Earth seeking the necessary materials, and that was gold. Gold is an excellent conductor of heat and is great at reflecting sunlight, so theoretically, this might help us with our atmospheric issues. Two high-ranking Anunnaki beings named Enlil and Enki, who were half-brothers, set up a base on the Earth and made the lower ranks mine the gold. Over time, the lower ranks became unpleased with the labor, so they revolted, forcing the two brothers to think of an alternative solution. And what was their solution? To genetically engineer a slave race by merging Anunnaki DNA with Homo erectus, thus creating a hybrid called Homo sapiens. They desired a slave that was intelligent enough to take orders, but also be subservient to their masters. This was an issue though. Enlil desired to have constant rule over their new workforce. However, Enki was against this, because he cared for humans. This resulted in a rift between the two brothers. Following the creation of humanity, there's a section of the tablet that's missing, which creates a confusion over what happened before the Great Flood. As time progressed, the human population worked and grew, but so did the noise they made. This greatly disturbed Enlil, so he made a decision, and that was to cleanse the earth of the human race. First he sent a plague, and then famine, followed by a drought, and lastly, a flood. Enki alerted a man named Athorhais about the coming disasters so that he could potentially save his family and a bunch of animals from extinction. Although in the end, majority of the population ceased to exist. Now, Zecharia Sitchin's perspective does bring an interesting take on history, but according to the critics, his ideas has been dismissed as pseudoscience by scientists and academics alike, and his work has been criticized for mistranslation of ancient texts and incorrect scientific claims. Sitchin may provide some answers and open people's eyes, but it still leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions. Just remember to think for yourself. After all, history can be mistranslated or even tampered with. And with that being said, question everything.